Good morning, colleagues. The Senate Finance Committee is now in session for voting on list number 30. And so at this time, I think David is starting off.
Yes, the first bill on your list is House Bill 983. This deals with visitation procedures established during an emergency at nursing homes. So first, the bill defines what is a catastrophic health emergency. It would also include COVID in this instance. There's two types of visitors that this bill would affect: compassionate care visitors and personal care visitors. The main difference between these types of visitors is, I believe, a compassionate care visitor would probably include some sort of person providing hospice services in a nursing home. The bill requires the health department to develop guidelines that are consistent with federal requirements regarding the visitation at a nursing home by a compassionate care visitor or a personal care visitor. The bill describes what these guidelines should include. And again, the guidelines are all consistent with federal requirements. There's additional guidelines that apply to personal care visitation regarding only one person can be a personal care visitor. It requires that certain safety protocols be established and the like. And again, all of these are consistent with federal guidelines, all of these procedures.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Move favorable.
Second.
All right, it's moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? If not, if you're ready for the question, all in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. Yes.
For the bill, what is different about this bill than what we had from Senator Corderman?
Senator Corderman, this bill is basically reiterates what the federal government allows regarding visitation during an emergency. Senator Corderman's bill went beyond that, and he offered an amendment with saying that the governor's executive order or powers would be limited, particularly
I remember that was problematic. Yeah. Okay, so this is the difference. Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you.
The next bill is House Bill 829. This bill establishes the Capital Access Program in the Department of Commerce, subject to specified requirements. The purpose of the program is to stimulate opportunities for small businesses that may have difficulty obtaining business financing to have access to credit by establishing a loan loss reserve program. Under that program, the borrower, the lender, and the state are required to contribute a certain percentage of the loan amount to an account that the lender may draw from in the event that the borrower defaults. The House amended the bill to authorize a borrower to pay 0% into the reserve fund, also to remove a mandated appropriation and remove a statement about legislative intent and the deposit of certain pandemic relief funds. There was a similar program by the same name in the Department of Housing and Community Development, but that program is no longer active. DHCD advised that the program was discontinued due to a lack of interest from lenders. It has been suggested, however, by advocates for the bill that the credit unions, banks, and community development financing institutions didn't have the same sort of relationship with DHCD as they do with the Department of Commerce, and that the lending institutions that worked with DHCD were far larger and less inclined to participate. The DHCD website lists participating lenders in their defunct program as BB&T, Bank of America, PNC, and SunTrust.
Okay. All right, Senator Jennings.
The portion where you said the House amended it so that the borrower doesn't have to pay anything into it, can you just elaborate what that was about?
Sure. So that's correct. The House amendments reduced from 2% as introduced to say between 0 and 7% of the enrolled loan into the account. So that's the amount that the borrower would be required to make into the account, is between 0 and 7%.
Is that an interest payment from what they borrowed that would go to the state? I'm trying to understand exactly what this money is.
So the way that I understand it to work is that the borrower and the lender are required to deposit a certain percentage of the amount of the loan into the account. The state would then make a matching payment, and then the lender could draw from that account if the borrower defaults. So under the DHCD program, for example, both the lender and the borrower were required to deposit an amount equivalent to 1.5% of the loan in the account. DHCD would then make a matching payment equal to 3%, so that there was a 6% reserve for the lender to draw from in the event of a default.
Okay.
Okay, Senator Feldman.
Yeah, just real quick. I mean, the bottom line, I think, is this: by having this receptacle of, it makes it easier to make loans to small businesses. But the main real reason we have it out here, I think, and we didn't move earlier, was now I'm told that we think there's about $167 million flowing from the federal government, some of which can go into this account that we're creating, which in turn, obviously, potentially, that's what Delegate Learman is saying. She sent us, or me at least, a bunch of documents. So if you have any... What's that?
The borrower still gets charged interest on the loan, correct? Okay, I
Yeah.
was making sure.
My question would be if we ought to put the government, the state government, because whatever we got from the feds right now, there's no guarantee it's going to be ongoing, and to create something that in the long run you may have no way of funding. Besides, we've done a lot in the last couple of years and during this session to make sure there is more available through our Maryland banks. Senator Hayes.
Yeah, I think this is a really good bill, Madam Chair. The good thing, unlike a lot of the bills that we had this session that wound up being controversial, is it doesn't mandate that we take the federal government. We haven't spent the federal government money prior to it even arriving. This provides enough flexibility where, should the money become available, that it would be used for this purpose. And I just think it's good to help a lot of these small businesses, especially given the times that we're in now.
Okay, is there any further discussion?
I'll move favorable on the bill.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor, please raise your hand. Okay. All opposed? Okay.
The next matter is a concurrence. Senate Bill 65 was amended in the House. Now, Senate Bill 65 excludes black liquor from eligibility under the RPS as a Tier 1 resource. It also adjusts slightly downward the total Tier 1 requirement percentages and the solar Tier 1 requirement percentages for several years, simultaneously adjusting upward the alternative compliance payments for those years, and indefinitely extends Tier 2 of the RPS beyond the current expiration at the end of 2020. The changes to the total Tier 1 and solar requirements return to the status quo in 2030, with 50% Tier 1 and 14.5% solar. There is one issue with the bill, and that is that the effective date is incorrect and currently reads June 1, 2020. So after discussing the issue with council in the House, it would be appropriate for the Finance Committee to vote not to concur and appoint a conference committee to adopt an amendment to fix this issue.
Oh, no, not to concur. Okay, any discussion on the motion? All right. If not, all in favor of the motion not to concur, please raise your hand. Okay, that passes.
The next bill for a concurrence consideration is Senate Bill 741. This is the COVID-19 Testing, Contact Tracing, and Vaccination Act of 2021. You'll recall that this is the bill that would require the Health Department to adopt and implement a 2-year plan to respond to COVID-19, as well as to develop a plan for vaccinating residents. And then it would need to convene a Maryland Public Health Infrastructure Modernization Work Group and provide funding to local jurisdictions and other providers to cover testing and other costs. So the House amendments require the Health Department to collaborate with the State Department of Education when adopting and implementing the response plan. The amendments also strike a requirement that the plan include the establishment of a public health job corps. Instead, the work group established under the bill must make recommendations regarding the establishment of the job corps. In addition, House amendments allow local jurisdictions to use grant funding under the bill for additional public health purposes related to COVID-19 response, instead of just being limited to testing and contact tracing, and modify requirements for the vaccination plan, including requiring a strategy for outreach and distribution to individuals who are not receiving the vaccine due to lack of access or vaccine hesitancy. The House amendments also alter the title, membership, and duties of the work group. They clarify a provision relating to the appropriation of federal funds for specified purposes under the bill, and delay by 6 months the effective date of certain hospital outpatient facility fee disclosure requirements to provide more time for implementation due to pandemic-related challenges. This is in relation to a bill that was passed last year with some new notice requirements, and some of the hospitals have been experiencing some pandemic-related challenges to implement those. It pushes it back to January 1 instead of having these requirements applied at the beginning of July.
Okay, can we get a motion?
So the issue is whether to concur to the House amendments to Senate Bill 741.
I mean, at this point, I don't think we want to.
Yes, the sponsor, Senator Rosapep, is supportive of these amendments.
Okay, any further discussion on this? All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, that looks unanimous. And colleagues, I think I'll change my vote on 829 and we'll make it unanimous. Okay. All right. Is there anything else for the good of the order? We'll keep everybody apprised of things as we go along for the day. And don't forget, sometime late afternoon, we'll have our food in the conference room.